What makes people successful? Sit with me as we discuss the Miles framework from the book The Unfair Advantage is How You Already Have What It Takes to Succeed by Ash Ali and Hasan Kubba. This is actually a part 2 of the book. It's a series of Unfair Advantages series. This is part 2 I'm making. I'll leave the part 1 somewhere. You can either go back and watch it and come, or you can watch this and watch that later, any of the way you want it. And yes, so kindly subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and let's get into this. And so first, let me reintroduce what unfair advantages are. As we already discussed in part 1, unfair advantages are unique abilities you have that helps you succeed, and they're actually a shortcut to success if you're able to identify what your unfair advantages are. Unfair advantages are not just actually your strength, as we read in most self-help and business books, but they also take into account your circumstances. And as I've already said, we are going to be discussing the Miles framework, and these Miles framework are actually what is referred to as unfair advantages. But the important thing to remember is that you don't need to have all of these things to be able to succeed. You can just have some, and then you partner with someone who also has the others, and success is yours. So let's get deep into them. The first thing from this Miles framework is actually your mindset. And the good thing about mindset is that you can instantly change your mindset by just looking at things or the circumstance in a different lens. And so, for example, one amazing mindset hack is gratitude. And so focusing on what you are grateful for in life can make you less stressed, can make you feel happier. You have not really changed your circumstances, but you are just deciding to look at life in a different means. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, you are focusing on what you have, and you are grateful for it. The authors say that sometimes we make the most misleading assumptions by looking at outliers and think that we are not able to achieve the successes those people achieve because we are not driven enough, we are not self-disciplined enough, and we are not even hardworking enough. But sometimes when you are reviewing the success stories of people such as Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Ivan Spiegel, Oprah Winfrey, they had certain unfair advantages that made them succeed that they had no control over. For example, Bill Gates attended the only school in his time that had a computer, and that helped him, to learn how to code and those things, and led him to the success he has today. Ivan Spiegel was born to a family of lawyers who were very influential and very rich, and he got to attend the best kind of schools, and that led him to who he is. Oprah Winfrey was born into a poor family but had a grandmother who taught her how to read, and she could read fluently at the age of 3. There are just so many different outliers, and these things that happened to them were out of their control. They were not asked to be born into the kind of families they were born into. And so when we try to look at these specific outliers in life and focus on the fact that maybe we are not succeeding because we are not driven or self-disciplined or working hard enough, then that is being unfair to us. And so it boils down to the fact that define what success means to you. What does success actually mean to you as a person? And so defining success for yourself in a way that is process-oriented helps you to enjoy the journey of life. And one of these ways can be having a reality growth mindset. A reality growth mindset is the ability to accept the hard limits of the way things are, and also to believe that anything is possible. It acknowledges the fact that there are limitations, but those limitations are more malleable than some people would think. Sometimes you need to believe that anything is possible to get you inspired and motivated to take action or even to get started. Other times, it's good to know that you are probably not going to be an extreme outlier, and so to enjoy the simpler things in life. They say that most of the beautiful things in life are actually free. And so a reality growth mindset is a balance between self-awareness and self-belief, in that self-awareness says that I probably think I might not win a Nobel Prize or cure cancer or become a president or prime minister of a country or even probably become the richest person in the world. And self-belief says that, but I am going to succeed in my own way. My goals might be stretched and things can get hard, but I'm going to step up to it to actually succeed and get the things I want to get. And so you actually need both. You need self-awareness and self-belief. In that, with self-awareness, you say that you can set achievable goals rather than focusing on outliers and anomalies. And so you can tell yourself or give yourself the responsibility that you're going to achieve everything you set your mind on, based on the fact that the things you set your mind on are within the realms of possibility. The second part of this miles framework, which is very important and we are going to discuss, is money. And there's an English proverb that says that it takes money to make money. And here, when we are talking about money, it's just not about money, it's actually wealth. Wealth is more than money because wealth can include your assets, houses, land, the things you can sell to actually get money. And having money is an unfair advantage. Most people have beautiful business ideas and they just need funding to be able to execute those ideas, and some people will probably go to their grave with these ideas because they couldn't get money to fund it. And so the authors are saying that having money, being scared of how to pay your rent and those things, and having enough money to be able to focus on your business and startup ideas is a very good unfair advantage. And yes, and so you need money to actually ensure that your startup stands. So the author talks about how to increase your income, and these are the things I've been talking about a lot in my videos. Minimize your spending, monetize your skills. So if you can freelance writing and all those things, learn how to code, raise funding, and so many other things, which you can check in my videos about personal finance. I have a whole playlist on those things. The next thing in the miles framework I want us to discuss is intelligence and insight. And so let's start with intelligence and focus on IQ, your intelligence quotient. And research shows that people with high IQs or children with high IQs will actually do well academically, achieve academic success and even economic success. But the problem with this is that it doesn't show how or whether you will do well in life if you have a higher IQ. But there are so many ways we can measure intelligence, and I want us to run through them as quickly as possible. The first is book smarts. You can think of book smarts as capacity for theoretical understanding. It's a style of learning, and there are some people who prefer to increase their knowledge through books and formal education. This type of intelligence gives us the conceptual frameworks that we can use as tools to understand the world. But the thing with this type of intelligence is that the authors say that most of the time, people who actually are smart, the smartest kids in school, your classmates, mostly usually don't do well in real life. They don't do well in life in general. And so when you meet them 10 years after school and you ask them, they are not fulfilled in their career and all those kind of things. So how do you identify whether you are a book smart or not? You can identify as a book smart if you like learning from books. You read a lot of books and you are able to grasp most of the concepts they are talking about easily without even going for somebody to explain for you. Then probably this is also a good unfair advantage to you, because books are contained. There are so many important things contained in books, so much knowledge you can learn from books. And so if you have the ability to learn a lot of things through books or read a lot of books and they are able to understand it, it's a good unfair advantage that you can work on to improve. The second type of intelligence is street smarts and people skills. The things you learn outside of school are street smarts. So street smarts are things you learn by doing. The street smarts, most of the time, the baseline is talent, but mostly it's also developed through real life experiences. The experiences of other people, the experiences of you as a person is what is developed. You develop to become street smarts. And so having friends and having mentors who have experiences will help you with the ability to make the right street smart decisions. People skills are also very essential, especially when it comes to startups. So emotional intelligence, businesses, we deal with people, right? And people are different. People usually are affected by their emotions more than logic. And so if you can read, understand, and affect people's emotions positively, then you can influence and persuade them. And it's through this emotional intelligence you'll be able to negotiate your pay rise. Is through this that you'll be able to understand customers and provide the needs of your customers. The next type of intelligence is called creative intelligence. So when we talk about creative intelligence, we are not just referring to poets and painters. And it's not something you are, not born with or born with, those kind of things. Creative intelligence is your ability to be able to connect dots. So if you learn something from, let's say, maths, how do you apply it in a real life situation? That is creative intelligence. The next point in the Miles framework is location and luck. Ray Kroc says that the two most important requirements for measure success are, first, being in the right place at the right time, and second, doing something about it. And so basically, location and luck means that being in the right place at the right time. So if your physical business is in a bad location, customers are probably just going to stumble by it without actually purchasing it. Location affects the vibe you are infected with. It is usually said that you are an average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And so being surrounded with innovative, entrepreneurial, hardworking people means that it also affects you to think positively and be productive in those kind of areas. But location doesn't have to be only physical. Location is also your environment, and sometimes, especially in this age and era, your online environment or community is also part of your location, and you have more control over that than even your physical environment. With this, we decide the type of people to follow and befriend on social media, the type of content you want to consume as a person. And this is very important because your personal growth, especially if you want to develop as a person, the kind of people you follow online is very important, and the kind of content you consume is also very important. Now let's talk some more about luck. Brian Tracy says that, I've found that luck is quite predictable. If you want more luck, take more chances, be more active, show up more often. So there are certain things you can't control. So while you can't change or control the timing of your birth, you can at least control the timing of your startup. Let's say you have a business idea you have been wanting to start up. You control when you actually want to start it. I wanted to start Uber business 100 years ago. It probably wouldn't have worked. That would have been too early because the internet wasn't existing. So how will people access or have the convenience of able to access a car is here, a car is not there, and those things. So with luck or timing, you have to be able to identify when to start it or when not to start whatever you want to do. There's no wealth like knowledge, there's no poverty like ignorance. Education doesn't stop when you get out of school, and it even doesn't begin when you get into school. Life is learning from the moment you arrive. The authors say that having a good education is an unfair advantage because most business founders are people who went to school, who went to university. Most of these days we hear a lot of people saying, school is not really it, I just want to drop out and those kind of things. Yes, there are outliers like Bill Gates and Richard Branson and those things, but there are so many other people who started businesses just from going to school. And so education, especially if you have a good one, is such a very good unfair advantage. With education, you get knowledge, you get network and signaling. Knowledge is what you are taught in school, maths, literacy, all those kind of things. Network is actually the people you meet in school, especially if you went to a very good school. Most of the time, the best schools in the world are people who have been picked from different places, who are actually also the best from where they were and they have come there. And so going to a university means that you get an opportunity to network with people who are best, and you get to make friends from there, and you can find business partners and life partners from these. Expertise, on the other hand, is a self-taught process where most of the time you learn by doing. With this, you start by learning theory to get you started, but theory is kind of limited. There are certain things you cannot do until you are in it and experiencing it. I might read a book on how to run a successful business, which can get me started on starting up the business, but you get to learn when you are actually in the business, and the kind of challenges you meet will help you be able to get the expertise to do it and face your challenges and achieve whatever you want to achieve. And so how do you build expertise? These days it's very easy. Learning online, the internet is just there. It's such a full room of possibilities and opportunities. Learn online, you can take courses online, you can read books. I'm always advocating for people reading books, right? You can learn so much from books. You can learn from mentors, people who have kind of done the things you want to do, and you just go to them and learn from them. And the final and most important is actually learn by doing it yourself. As I've said, what better way is for you to be in that thing, and while you are doing it, you are learning along. And so the goal here is to reach a stage where you learn by doing. Now let's look at the last point in the Miles framework, which is status. Your status is your personal brand. It's how people see you. It's your social standing, your appearance, your age, your gender, how you dress, how you stand, how you talk, and it's even your perceived credibility. We often associate status with popularity or celebrity. Sometimes when we're in school, status was about being cool, but when you become an adult, status is about your occupation, the job titles, how well educated you are, symbols of success. It's about your network and how you are seen. And usually, status is usually discussed in two ways: outer status and inner status. So with outer status, for better or worse, in most society, a doctor is perceived as having a higher status than a nurse. A CEO is perceived as having a higher status than an intern. A billionaire is perceived as having a higher status than a single mother living on a government benefit. And so our shared beliefs as a society reflect on whom we even consider as a higher status. And this doesn't just affect how we treat people on the street. Status is also about power. Because higher social status comes with prestige and honor and respect, and people usually want that. And so, as I've always said, people usually associate their status based on even places they have been before. So someone who has worked with Google before will always say that I am an ex-Google employee who is doing this and that. And they feel like it gets them higher status in life. Some people will say I'm a Harvard-trained lawyer. And so the fact that Harvard is an Ivy League just makes them be perceived as a higher status person in life. And so you always see people finding ways to associate themselves with things they think society sees it as a higher status. Because of outer status, there are just certain prejudices and unconscious bias. Sometimes somebody will just look at you based on your gender and treat you differently, based on your age and treat you differently, based on your race and treat you differently. And these are just things even people do unconsciously. Another is even a cultural bias. Another thing about this outer status is also cultural capital. Let's say I'm entering a bank and I decide to wear a suit, dress smartly, a business attire and intern there. They are going to treat me differently just based on my appearance than if I wore a tattered jeans with my hair all messy and all those things, and I'll also receive a different treatment. And that is why we are saying people perceive and treat you based on how they see your social standing and how they see you and how society has made them to believe what a higher status person is. There's also inner status, which is a powerful way of increasing your outer status. It is your self-esteem, your self-confidence. He says that self-esteem is more of a simpler way of saying liking yourself. Do you even like yourself? Values work on, your confidence, work on your self-esteem. Don't use an excuse that I am lazy, I procrastinate. Most of the time we use those things as excuses, but everybody else has it. Everybody procrastinates. Yeah, everybody procrastinates. The hardest working person procrastinates. You procrastinate. All you have to do is just work. And the thing is that you don't need to be perfect to get started. Always bear that in mind. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. And I hope that you actually go get a copy of The Unfair Advantage by Ash Ali and Hasan Kubba and read it for yourself. It's such an interesting book. It's a book that stands against what we usually hear in society that talks about work hard and you succeed. No, all you have to do is to identify your unfair advantages, use them as leverages, and you're on your way to success. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash the like button, and I will see you when I see you next. Bye.